Good day and welcome to Book Brilliance, the author's voice. This is where you get to meet amazing authors, get an insight into what makes them tick, and hear all about the tips that they've got about being seen, being heard, and being noted as a great author. And I am so absolutely excited today because of the author we are about to meet. Don't tell her, but I've got a bit of a girl crush on her. She's so absolutely fantastic. So without further ado, I want you to meet the beautiful soul inside and out. That is Susan Smalley. Hello, Susan.
Hiya, thank you for your invitation to be here, and hello everyone, it's so good to be here.
Okay, and Susan, you are just an amazing person. I think I can't remember when I started following you, but it's a good year ago or so, in the Spiritual Lounge. Is that right? Is that the name of your group, isn't it, on Facebook?
I do believe that we met for about 18 months ago, Brenda.
18 months, okay.
And it was, you were a member, you became a member of my Spiritual Sofa, which is my Facebook group, or one of the many Facebook groups that I have, the main one. And it's interesting to know that we've actually spoken more times on the telephone than we have in real life anyway.
I know.
We are yet to meet in the flesh.
I know. We're hoping when COVID's over that we can actually achieve that little goal of actually meeting up in person, and Susan, as I said, is a beautiful, beautiful soul inside and out. So let's find out what I mean by that. So Susan, can you share with us a little bit about your life and the passion you've got for all your artistry?
Thank you very much. Well, hiya, I'm very creative. I am a very intuitive soul. I work with my intuition. I work with energy, and everything is energy. Everything around us in our environment, in the world itself, is a creation, is it not? So I believe within the power of our mind, we are constantly creating nuances of newness all of the time, no matter what situation we find ourselves in. And as I work as an intuitive life coach to help to steer people forward, help to give them support and to give them guidance as they move forward in their life, and confidence and trust in their own abilities. But creatively, I let them see their potential, and I do this with a flair which is quite unique to me, in that I'm not a textbook intuitive life coach. I like to work with the soul energy of the person that I'm working with, or the group of women I'm working with, men also. I also read tarot, and that in itself is an artistry form of divination, with the colour emblazoned right across the cards, and they speak the language, and I speak the language, and I'm used to public speaking, I'm used to going on the airwaves, I'm used to being on the radio and also lives. So I love people. I just absolutely love to be in a position of being mentor, guide, facilitator of learning. So I spill out all of my knowledge, I share everything. I'm a very open soul. My heart is open. I work with an open heart. I don't believe that you could be spiritual or holistic in any practice or form if you were not open-hearted. And so I think it's important to recognize that sometimes when life gives us trials and tribulations, we have to retreat to self-heal and then re-emerge. The stronger, the better, because I believe that life is opportunity, life is creativity. And even out of this lockdown situation, I've seen so many people and spoken to so many people who've just kind of like had this catastrophic change, like almost as if they've been cocooned for years, not known where they're going, and all of a sudden, boom, the windows open, the doors open, and suddenly they've got this new pathway, this new way of living. And to me, that's a big shift of spiritual awakening. And so I'm so excited, as you can hear, about this.
Yeah, I know that, and I know you can talk forever, because that's the depth and breadth of your experience, your insight, your intuition, your wisdom, whatever word you want to call it, and it's right. What's happening just now, there is, with COVID, there is this huge opportunity for us individually to make a shift and become more spiritual, and we're seeing that through the actions of people, through the use of music, through art, through all the ways people are being creative and pulling us all together. But what's more exciting, and I'd like to hear your insight on this, Susan, is we're coming collectively and we're shifting and we're up leveling. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it has to happen. I think it's been much awaited, much necessitated for decades, actually. And I think even in the 60s, where there was this free style of living, and, you know, I was born in the 60s, I'm a 60s baby. I don't have experience of being the teenager, you know, sort of out of clubbing. But I know that from the documentaries and from the material that I've read, and just the way of life, that was so much a sense of freedom. We've advanced so much technologically, and I think the focus has been on consumerism, materialism, and also technology itself, which has to advance. We've got to advance within our mind capacity. We've got to expand our minds, our intelligence, and scientists prove that technology is an intelligence. Our intelligence has to surpass our limitations, but I feel that from within, if you haven't got a balance between the mind and the body, in the heart and the soul being in sync with that, then there is disalignment and distress. And I feel that for those years, those decades, there's been such a lot of recognition of post-traumatic stress disorder, emotional crisis within. Allergies, where have they come from? You know, so much has evolved in a negative sense, in an illness way, because of the stresses upon people to perform, to cut the mustard, to have the 5 cars on the drive and the big house. Now, I'm a pitman's daughter, and I like my simplistic life. I live in a 2 up, 2 down detached house with gardens all around in my drive. I'm in the heart of the northeast countryside, just next to the fabulousness of the coastline. Who could want anything more than that? You know, yes,
Nature.
we want to have, you know, we're always striving for a better way of living. Everybody deserves the same amount, the same level, that capacity of luxury. And I believe that in this lockdown, where we've seen people come out of their barriers, from beyond their barriers, and show kindness in the community, but also on a personal level, the number of people just this morning on my friends list on Facebook who've gone out at 4 a.m. so they can watch the sunrise. Now,
Wow.
we read about this in ancient cultures, you know, the Native American Indians, the shamans, the Aborigines, the Africans, the Aztecs, where they went and they worshipped the sun and they met. And we do this at solstice time, of course, in the summer, but it's lovely, isn't it, that we are capturing memories. We're wanting to enrich our lives and bring the thread of that spirituality more so into our children's lives and grandchildren's lives too. So I feel that this has to happen, this breakthrough, this big shift collectively on mass scale had to happen, because it's going to crack open so much more of a humanness again, because I think people have forgot how to be human.
So and I think you're right. It's bringing out so much beauty and wonderment of the human spirit, because after all, we're free spirits, aren't we?
Yes.
So let's turn our thoughts to, thank you for sharing that, I've got to say, by the way, as well. There's so much in there, so people will be able to rewind and listen to what you've said again. But this is the author's voice. So let's turn our attention to you as a writer, as an author. Where's your love of writing come from?
Oh my gosh, my love of writing began at school. At school, within the junior school, but then in the ranks of the secondary school. I didn't go to grammar school, I didn't go to university, I haven't had an education per se in that sense, in the literal sense. However, my favourite subject at school was writing, was English literature, the English language. I loved words, I loved the way the English teacher vocalised. Our English teacher for 2 years was my form teacher, and she was also my PE teacher, my physical education teacher. So I had a great respect for her, and you know, I had her on a pedestal. I was very shy, very quiet, didn't speak. So whenever it was time to speak and read in the classroom, oh, I used to go bright red, panicking and everything. But I loved the way she read. I loved the way she used to say to us on a Friday evening, okay, here's your homework for the weekend. And she would read an excerpt from a book. She would randomly open a book, the pages of a book, and she would read a little passage, paragraph. We had to continue the story.
Yeah, wonderful.
I love the stretch of the mind and the freedom and expanse of words, and the challenge of just pouring out what you feel. And as you can see, I pour out my emotions, I pour out what I sense, and I can't do that. I can do research and do documentation of something, an article as such, but I love the flair. I love not knowing what I'm going to write. And to be honest with you, from that early age, it's just kind of been within me. So I didn't find it being there sat dormant within me. And then in my 20s, I began to write journals in my mid 20s, and just noting down what I'd done in the day and the textures and the sounds and the smells and the vibrancy of life. And I used to note this down in my journals. I've got like quite a collection there in
Wow, that's your memoirs, isn't it? That's definitely going to be on the table. Your memoirs.
We'll see. We'll see.
You could actually serialize that, Susan.
I
So
could.
so it's kind of innate within you, this love of writing. So, and you've touched into journaling, which is such a free way of expression, and we know the power of journaling. It can heal, it can be used for the law of attraction. There's so many reasons why we should all journal. If not to help us learn how to express ourselves more, then that is the best reason why. So tell us a bit about the types of publications you've been involved with and what they've been about.
Well, I have over the years wrote quite a number of articles for various spiritualist magazines right across the whole of the UK. On mediumship, spiritual mediumship, the development as such. I've also written about tarot in articles that have gone out into known magazines, Spirit and Destiny being one of those. And I know that I have been involved very much in the Lyceum of the Spiritualist National Union. So as my role as a volunteer to work within the museum of the Lyceum, I was privy to all of the big encyclopedias of the history of the pioneers of spiritualism. So from that, get this, from that stemmed articles within the Lyceum Banner, which was a monthly magazine that went out to all members of the Lyceum. And I used to just love writing about my passion, which was mediumship and spiritualism. And then one day I decided to go down to London, just outside of London in Essex. There is the Arthur Findlay College, and at the Arthur Findlay College, they've got vast records, or they used to have vast records there too, about the Spiritualist National Union. And I rang them up and I said, look, I'm in the area. I said, I was just wondering if I could come and have a look at some of the archives. I'm doing a bit of research on various Northeast mediums that were very proficient and publicised in the Psychic News newspaper, which was established in 1932. And they said to me, oh yeah, come along, you can take some photocopies and you'll have to pay for them, and that's okay. So I was all set to spend the day at the Mahajan's Britain House, which is just adjacent to the college. And when I got there, I was notified that the editor, Tony Ortson at the time of the Psychic News, had given me his permission. He rang me and said, Susan, I would like you to use my office. Now get that, I got to sit in the editor's office, of the Psychic News. Now Maurice Barbanel, who founded the Psychic News, is one of my greatest admired pioneers of spiritualism. He was a fantastic spiritualist medium himself, a trance medium, and you'll have to look into that. I could talk forever about that. But to sit in the office of the editor of the Psychic News with the patio door open on a summer's day, not unlike today, and him to call me from London and say, how are you getting on? Are you enjoying your day?
Wow.
And I had access to all of the history of the Psychic News. How good is that?
Wow, so that's absolutely going to fuel your love of writing. So tell us a bit about so I know you're looking at authorship and getting your book together. So what kind of challenges and thoughts are you having around creating such a book?
Well, for the past 2 years, I have also been submitting to an online female entrepreneur magazine, the
Yes.
Female CEO. So each month I write an article for the Sanctuary for a spiritual and enlightenment and warm, soulful embrace of meditation techniques and crystal therapy techniques. So I talk about what I do, so I can do that stood on my head. So that's not so much of a challenge for me. What has been a challenge, however, has been writing about deep trauma, deep emotional trauma that I myself have experienced. So I'm not writing about something that is secondhand. I'm
Yeah.
writing about my voice. My soul is expressing itself. And the challenge of that was to allow myself, who is really very private, very private, and very protective of my privacy, to open up and reveal all of my innermost secrets,
Wow.
darkest doubts and desires. So that's kind of like a big um, shroud lifted from me to say, look, once you've done this, it's almost like you're cutting your teeth on this. Once you've cut your teeth on this book, the rest will flow because there's a lot. There's a lot there. There's more than you would like to know. But just recently, for instance, last year, I retreated away from my business. I took myself into self-heal mode because of trauma that occurred 3 years ago and turned my world upside down. And last year I took myself off and I booked myself into a country manor house and I sat there on a silent retreat. It was January of 2019, and I expected nobody to be in this country manor house. It was very much a little Downton Abbey, with all of the staff milling around me. And I sat with my pen and my paper because I prefer to write with pen on paper rather than type. And I sat there with my cafetiere coffee. And I wish I had £1 for every person who came up to say, "What's that you doing?" I'm writing a book. I'm writing. What you're writing about? Um, oh, it's memoir. Oh, what type of memoir? And so I wasn't left alone. Even in the hall, Gisborough Hall, Lord Gisborough, whose home it was, and he lives adjacent in another cottage. Lord Gisborough was sat dining with me one night, and he said to me, "My dear, why don't you write straight into the laptop?" And I said, "Because I like it. Even though I'm a touch typist and I can type in the
Yeah,
dark, I prefer the pen in my hand and the sound of the paper."
yeah,
Is the
absolutely.
word scribble along. And he said, "But you can dictate into your computer." And I said, "Lord Whisperer, if I had an accent like yours, my computer would understand me. But by the time it's picked up on all of my Geordie slang and I've got to reread it and correct it, it's twice, 3 times the work. So I might as well
I have
put
the
it
same
down
I
in
have the same
journal."
problem with the Western Coast Scottish accent, let me tell you. So we're
Oh,
soul sisters
really
on that.
well.
And it's true, you're right, so as an author, you've got to find the way that you're comfortable with writing. I like
That's
to
a
just go
challenge.
straight into that, but there's also, here's my notes. I still write in pencil like a 5-year-old. I love the sound of a pencil.
Love
I
it.
I don't like the pen on paper, but the sound of the pencil going across the paper, I love it. Plus, as you know, in the business that we're in, things change constantly. So if I was to
And
write it
I
in pen, it would have all the scribbles, and I wouldn't like that. My
and
OT.
I write in colour. It has to be gel ink. It can't be just normal, boring old biro. It's got to be colour. I've got to write in pink and blue and green and purple and red. And that keeps it interesting and vibrant.
Mm. So you're right. So for authors who are writing what I call a definitive book, that's weave with the story, the tapestry of the stories woven throughout the book, the biggest challenge is, like you say, for someone like yourself who is private, although you share all your knowledge, but your life, that's private. But if you really want to do justice to a book, you have to just throw caution to the wind, find your courage to raise that voice so that you can be heard. But there is power in vulnerability. There's beauty in vulnerability. So where are you with your book at the moment then? What stage?
I'm at the stage that it's in manuscript form. It's typed out. It's been printed out in July of last year. I laid it out on the botanical gardens in Durham University, and with my bare feet, I walked all over it. I put my energy upon it. I put my soul into it, my soles of my feet and my soul into it, my heart and soul. And I didn't write because I didn't write in any structure. I just wrote what came up. It came up and I wrote it out. It came up and I wrote it out. There was no structure. It wasn't like, one chapter, let's start the next chapter and move on to this. It wasn't so formulated in that sense. Yeah. So it was all over the place, like a big jigsaw box that had been emptied out and all of the pieces were jumbled up. Yes. And that's the state it is still in. So I haven't even put together the order of chapters. I haven't edited. I mean, there are hundreds of thousands of words in that, but I have got to say, in this lockdown period, a friend has found herself living just around the corner from me. She'll come and pop a little strawberry tart on my
oh, how sweet.
Or she'll bring me some beautiful tulips and leave them on the back doorstep. And she said to me, weeks ago, Susan, what's happening with your book? And I said, a bit of embarrassment rose out from me. And I said, yeah, I must get round to that. And I'm thinking, but hang on a second, half of the year's gone now, almost. Half of this year's gone.
Absolutely no excuse now during lockdown.
It was going to be in print. So she has requested in her lockdown mode, can she thumb through and have a read of it, give her feedback, suggest some edits? And they do say, don't they, never ever give your family your book to read. Never ever give your friends your book, because they're going to be criticising it left, right and centre, questioning you further about it. So she's pretty neutral. She's got a mindset which is highly logical, so she's pretty neutral to the emotions of the book, but she knows that she's helping me to get that underway. So I am looking to submit to a literary agent, to a publisher. I've looked at the possibility of, self-publishing and all of those malarkeys, but I kind of, let's get the book in order first 3 chapters anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. True. So you're doing all the right things, because you say, so you've considered self-publishing and that's not for you. So you're left with either partnership publishing, where you will still have a hand in your book, or a publisher, a traditional publisher, who will take it and maybe not put the same soul into it as you might expect.
Yeah.
That's the risk you take with going to a bigger publisher.
That's my baby, so I'm quite nurturing of it. Yeah.
So it's being clear what your expectations are, what your intentions are for your book, because that will inform you where you want to go.
Yes. I'm trusting my instincts on that.
Of course, that's who you are, Susan. I wouldn't expect you to do anything else. You will know the right person and the right publisher when they come along. So, Susan, thank you so much. It's been wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
Great.
Before we go, what advice would you give to someone who's thinking about writing, getting a bit stuck? What would you say to them?
I'm going to say this. Get yourself paper, get yourself a pen and begin to write. And don't think about it, just write.
Wonderful. And with that beautiful, powerful and succinct message, I'd just like to thank you for gracing our screens today at Book Brilliance, the author's voice. Susan, thank you very much. And remember, be brilliant.
You too. Thank you so much, Brenda. Cheerio.
Bye.